Welcome to the Balanced Badass Podcast, the show for multitaskers determined to stay balanced and badass without losing their minds. Every week, we help you manage your overflowing calendar and household, making sure you still have time to breathe, laugh, and savor that much-needed glass of wine at the end of the day. Think of this podcast as your weekly dose of practical advice, humor, and tough love, just like catching up with a friend who really gets it. I'm Tara Kermit, your personal growth coach, helping you handle how was your day without a meltdown. Now let's get into today's episode. All right, friend, here we go. Episode number 1. Huzzah! We're going to kick things off by talking about something that pretty much everyone in our age bracket is struggling with. How to balance a demanding career and a home life without losing your damn mind. I'm talking about being able to crush it at work, keep your household running, and maybe, just maybe, have a little time left over to breathe, enjoy a good Netflix binge, or savor that glass of wine without feeling like you should be doing something more productive. And let's be real here. It often feels like there just aren't enough hours in the day. Like we're all stuck in some twisted version of that arcade game where you're constantly smacking those little gophers on the head with a hammer. Except instead of gophers, it's deadlines, appointments, kids' soccer games, grocery runs, and oh yeah, did I mention that looming gynecologist appointment you forgot to reschedule? Balance feels like one of those words that's great in theory, but in practice, it's more like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll balance my life right after I finish balancing this pile of laundry, this 72-item to-do list, and the 6 meetings I've got back to back today. I get it. I've lived it. And if you're anything like me, and I'm guessing you are, you've got days where just getting through without a meltdown feels like winning the freaking lottery. You know those days where the win isn't about landing a promotion or closing a big deal, but just about not losing your keys, your mind, or your will to live? Yeah, I'm talking about those days. Yet we keep trying to do it all, don't we? We're out here acting like superheroes, thinking we need to perfectly balance every single thing every single day. But no one is perfectly balancing anything. Not me, not you, not that influencer on Instagram who swears by her morning routine of meditation and yoga at dawn. In fact, a recent survey found that 66% of working professionals feel like they have zero balance between work and life. Zero balance. That's just depressing. And let's be honest, it feels kind of impossible sometimes, right? So pour yourself a cup of coffee or a glass of wine if that's the kind of day you're having, and let's have a chat about why this balance thing is so freaking hard and what you can actually do to make it better. Because you don't need more people telling you to find your zen or to just breathe. No, you need real, practical steps that you can actually use when life feels like a dumpster fire. My goal is that you'll have a couple of things that you can try that might make this whole balancing act feel a bit less like a circus. I promise we'll get you from Hot Mess Express to somewhat functioning human by the end of this episode, and hopefully maybe even better than that. Okay, so here's the thing. The whole concept of work-life balance is kind of a scam. Like, this is the biggest lie we've been sold. The idea that we can somehow have it all. Excuse me, Karen, but do you really think I can run a marathon, run a business, and run a household without running myself into the ground? Nope, not happening. I mean, think about it. You've got all these people out there preaching about achieving this perfect Zen state where work and life exist in harmony like a fucking Hallmark movie. Meanwhile, the rest of us are over here just trying to remember if we fed the dogs this morning. And don't even get me started on the laundry that's on its 3rd rewash of the week because I keep forgetting about it. You see, balance isn't some magical place you arrive at. It's not like you're going to wake up one day, stretch out, and think, yes, I have achieved perfect balance. No. Balance is a verb. It's an action. It's the constant shifting of priorities. It's the messy middle between what you have to do, what you want to do, and what you're currently doing while trying not to lose your sanity. What we're actually looking for is a way to not feel like we're failing at everything all the time. Let me take you back to when I first realized I needed a serious overhaul in my own life. I was working in higher ed at the time, and I was in the middle of one of those ridiculous weeks where every minute was accounted for. I had back-to-back meetings, late-night presentations to different student groups, onboarding new staff, trying to maintain some semblance of a social life, and all the while trying to be present for my family as my dad was fighting stage 4 esophageal cancer 10 hours away from me. I remember feeling like I was spinning plates on every finger, terrified of which one would fall first and shatter into a million pieces. And then it all came to a head one Tuesday. I was in a big meeting with a faculty member when my phone starts buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. Finally, I'm able to take a sneak peek. I have 3 missed calls from my mom, a voicemail, and a missed call from my sister. I knew right away that it couldn't be good. I'm in a total panic at this point, trying to wrap up this meeting, already mentally kicking myself for being a bad daughter and a bad employee. You know, that mental gymnastics routine where you're simultaneously trying to focus on the present, but also berating yourself for not being somewhere else. As I walked out of the meeting, I pulled up the voicemail, and you know how it transcribes the message? Yeah. What I see staring back at me are the words that will forever change my life. Tara, it's Mom. Dad's collapsed in the hallway, and I don't think he's breathing, and I've called 911. I missed the call from my mom when she and Dad needed me most. And let me tell you, nothing in that moment mattered. Not the meeting I had just come from, not the presentations I had to give later that week, not the dozens of emails that were piling up in my inbox. Nothing. I was hit with this cold, hard realization. I'd been running myself ragged, trying to be everything to everyone, and I was missing the stuff that really mattered. The stuff that should have been at the top of my list, but had somehow ended up buried underneath everything else. I just kept praying for Dad to hold on until I got home, but he couldn't. Just as I got to my car in the parking lot at work, Mom called to let me know that Dad had passed. That moment absolutely broke me. I felt like my entire world had shattered into a million tiny pieces, and no amount of balancing could ever put them back together again. I flew home in a daze, tears streaming down my face, just trying to make sense of everything. But here's the thing. You can't make sense of something like that. You just can't. And no amount of productivity hacks or motivational quotes was gonna make it okay. I realized then that all the stuff I'd been stressing about, all the things I thought were so important, were really just distractions. Distractions from what really matters in life. The people you love, the moments you can't get back, the things that make life worth living. And I was angry at myself for letting it get that far, for believing that if I just worked a little harder, pushed a little more, I could somehow make it all work. But life doesn't work that way. Life isn't about checking off boxes on a to-do list or making sure every little thing is perfectly balanced. Life is fucking messy, and it's supposed to be. It's full of twists and turns and unexpected life bombs that knock the wind right out of you. And that's okay. That's life. So what's the takeaway here? You don't have to wait for a crisis to figure this out. In fact, don't wait until you're standing in a parking lot with your heart in your throat, wishing you could turn back time. You can start today, right now, and make some shifts that will actually make a difference. Here's what I realized. The key to balance isn't trying to do it all. It's figuring out what's really worth doing. It's knowing that some things can and should fall to the floor because they don't matter as much. And guess what? The world won't stop spinning because you decided to prioritize what really matters to you. Now, I'm not sharing this to make you feel bad or to make you think that you've got to overhaul your entire life today. I'm sharing this because I know you've been there too. Maybe not in the exact same way, but in your own way. That moment when you realized you were spending so much time and energy on things that, in the grand scheme of things, just don't matter. And here's the thing. That moment of brokenness, it forced me to figure out a different way, a better way. So let's talk about that better way, because I promise it exists. First things first, let's get rid of this whole balance obsession. We've been conditioned to believe that balance is this gold standard, the thing we're all supposed to be striving for. But balance is a moving target, and it's almost impossible to hit. Here's what I've learned. It's not actually about balance. It's about boundaries, priorities, and habits. And more importantly, it's about giving yourself permission to let go of the unrealistic expectations that you've been holding on to for far too long. Let's look at some data here. Did you know that according to a study from the National Bureau of Economic Research, the average workday has increased by 48 minutes since remote work became a thing? 48 minutes. That's like adding an extra hour to our already packed schedules. And we're over here trying to balance this with everything else. No wonder we're exhausted. No wonder we feel like we're failing. We're set up to fail from the start. There's a concept called the 4 burners theory. So imagine your life is like a stove with 4 burners on it, each burner representing a major part of your life: career, family, health, and social life. The idea behind the 4 burners theory is that you can't keep all 4 burners on high at the same time. You only have so much gas to burn, and if you try to keep them all going full blast, you're going to run out of fuel. It's physics. Or maybe it's just common sense. If you try to give your full energy to your career, family, health, and social life all at once, you will absolutely burn out. So the theory suggests that to be really successful in one area, you might have to turn down or even off one of the other burners. And that's okay. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're focusing. It means you're making a conscious choice about where your energy is going. It means you're human. If you're focused on advancing your career, you might need to spend a little less time on social activities. Your Friday night might be more early bedtime than happy hour. Or if you're dedicating a lot of energy to your family, your career might not get as much attention. You might have to accept that you won't be the first one in the office or the last one to leave. If you've been listening to the podcast and thinking, I need a game plan to crush my goals without losing my mind, then listen up, because I've got something just for you. Introducing 7 Days to Crushing Your Goals, a free mini course designed to help you stop dreaming and start doing. Over the course of 1 week, I'm going to walk you through the Dreams framework, giving you practical, bite-sized lessons that fit into your busy schedule. Each day, you'll get a new audio lesson and a hands-on exercise to keep you on track. We'll kick things off by nailing down your why, that core reason behind your goals. From there, we'll dive into recognizing your strengths, setting clear outcomes, making decisive actions, tracking your progress, and finding the accountability you need to keep pushing forward. This course is perfect if you're ambitious but feeling a bit overwhelmed. It's practical, straightforward, and designed to help you make real progress without adding extra stress to your plate. So if you're ready to stop dreaming and start doing, join me for 7 Days to Crushing Your Goals. Sign up now at tarakermit.com/crushyourgoals to take some big steps toward your dreams. It's all about recognizing that you can't do everything at full throttle all the time. You have to prioritize. And sometimes that means turning down the heat on one part of your life to keep the others going strong. Now, I'm not saying you have to completely abandon parts of your life. I'm not telling you to quit your job, ghost your friends, or give up on getting those 10,000 steps in. But the point is, you can't have all burners going at full blast without burning out. So which one are you willing to dial down so you can keep the others at a steady simmer? Which area are you willing to let coast for a bit so that you can give another one the fuel it really needs right now? For me, it was my overcommitment to work and my need to be everything to everyone. I had to learn to say no. I had to learn that it's okay to drop the ball on stuff that just doesn't matter. And yeah, that was hard as hell, but it was also liberating. So, my friend, let's shift our focus. Instead of aiming for this mythical balance, let's aim for something we can actually control. Setting boundaries that protect what's important to us, and choosing what truly deserves our time and energy. But how do we do this? How do we actually start making life a little less crazy? Well, step one is to get clear on your priorities and stick to them like glue. And when I say priorities, I don't mean just make a list of all the things you think you need to do. I mean actually digging deep and getting brutally honest with yourself about what actually matters. I'm going to tell you a little secret here. Not everything is equally important. I know, mind-blowing, right? But it's true. We act like everything in our life has the same weight, when in reality, some things are way more important than others. So here's what I want you to do. Sit down and write out your top 3 priorities. Not 10, not 5, just 3. And then, now, this is the hard part. You have to protect those things, like your life depends on it. Because in some ways it does. Hell, protect them like they're the last chocolate chip cookies in the house during a snowstorm. Guard them with your life. And here's a little trick I use. It's called the hell yeah or no rule. If something doesn't make you think, hell yeah, I want to do that, or it doesn't match up with your top 3 priorities, then it's a no. Just that simple. This rule has made it a lot easier for me to cut out the noise and keep my attention on what matters most. And while we're talking about saying no, let's get into the art of saying no. And I do mean art because it takes practice. But once you get the hang of it, oh boy, does it feel good. We've been conditioned to think that saying no makes us mean or selfish or lazy. But saying no is actually one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. According to a study by the University of California, people who struggle to say no are more likely to experience stress, burnout, and even depression. And I don't know about you, but I want the opposite of all of that. Now, if you're worried that saying no might hurt someone's feelings, just remember that saying yes all the time might actually hurt you a lot. You, my friend, have finite resources. And if you keep saying yes to every little thing that comes your way, you'll have nothing left for what actually matters. So next time you're tempted to say yes out of guilt or obligation, pause for a minute and ask yourself, does this serve my priorities? Does this serve my mental health? If the answer is no, well, there's your answer. And here's what I want you to practice. The next time someone asks you to do something that doesn't align with your priorities, try something like saying, I'd love to help, but I'm actually at capacity right now. Or even better, you could just say, no, I can't. No further explanation needed. You don't owe anyone a reason for protecting your sanity. And while we're on the topic of sanity, let's talk about boundaries. I could literally talk about these all day because they are everything. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. Think of them like fences to protect what's important to you: your time, your energy, your peace of mind. People who set clear boundaries between work and home are 25% more satisfied with their lives and experience significantly less burnout. That's a big deal. It means you get to live your life instead of just surviving it. So if you're not already setting boundaries, it's time to start. And if you are setting boundaries, you can always practice doing it more. And trust me, I know it's hard. As a recovering people pleaser myself, I get it. Saying no feels like you're letting people down. But here's the truth. A well-placed no is a gift to you and to the people who matter most in your life, because it means you're showing up for them with your full, undivided self. If you're constantly answering work emails at 9 p.m., guess what? You've trained everyone to think that you're always on call, which means you'll never get a break. But what if you just didn't? What if you set a hard stop and made it known that your office hours end at 6 p.m. or whenever works best for you? Guess what would happen? Well, the world wouldn't end, I promise you that. Your job won't implode. Your coworkers won't revolt. But you'd start to reclaim your evenings, your peace, and your life. Because when you start setting boundaries, you start taking back control. You're telling the world, hey, I'm here for what matters, but I am not here to be everyone's doormat. And that, my friend, is powerful. And speaking of powerful, I want to talk about something that's equally as crucial: building habits that actually support the life you want. Because listen, you can set all the boundaries in the world, but if you don't have habits in place to back them up, you're going to end up right back where you started: stressed, overwhelmed, and exhausted. Think about it this way. Habits are the daily automatic actions that reinforce your boundaries and support your priorities. Good habits are like autopilot for your brain. They take the pressure off because you don't have to constantly think about every little decision. They're the little rituals that help you stay on track even when life gets messy. Now, the thing is, you have to start small. And I'm talking really small. Like, so easy it feels silly small. Because when you focus on creating small, sustainable habits, they start to compound. Want to get in better shape? Start with 5 squats every morning. Trying to find more time for yourself? Commit to just 5 minutes of quiet time with your coffee. So as you think about the boundaries you want to set and the priorities you want to protect, also think about the habits that will help you get there. What's one small thing you can start doing today that will support the life you want to live? Don't overcomplicate it. Pick one tiny action and make it a part of your daily routine. And then when that habit becomes second nature, add another, and then another. And before you know it, you're not just setting boundaries, you're living a life that feels more balanced, intentional, and totally on your terms. All right, friend, I know this was kind of a heavy episode, especially for the first one, but I really hope that it gave you something to think about. I hope it gave you permission, even just a little bit, to release some of that pressure you're putting on yourself. Because life's too damn short to spend it constantly stressed out, trying to do everything perfectly. So let's make a pact right here, right now, to start focusing on what really matters and just let go of the rest. The noise, the guilt, the pressure to be all things to all people. And listen, I'm not saying it's always going to be easy. In fact, it's probably going to be uncomfortable and really suck at times. I'm not even saying I have it all figured out. I still have days where I feel like I'm one dirty dish away from a meltdown. Days where I've got so much going on that, like a spilled coffee, a missed deadline, or a misplaced phone feels like it could be the tipping point for me. But I've learned that it's not about being perfect. It's about showing up, doing your best, and knowing that your best is going to look different every single day. It's about trying, failing, learning, and then trying again. Because going through all of that is how we grow, how we get stronger, and how we figure out what really works for us. So if you're feeling like a hot mess express right now, just know that you're in good company. We're all just trying to figure this out together. And it's okay to admit that you don't have it all together. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to drop a ball or two or even three, because the truth is nobody has it all figured out, no matter how polished their Instagram feed looks. And if I can get from where I was, standing in that parking lot, feeling like the worst daughter and employee ever, feeling like my world was crumbling around me, to where I am now, I promise you can too. I'm still figuring this shit out. I'm still learning, but I'm here and I'm choosing every day to show up for what really matters, even when it's hard, even when it's messy. And hey, speaking of figuring things out, you're not going to want to miss next week's episode. We're going to tackle something that sneaks up on all of us and silently wreaks havoc on our lives. Overthinking. You know, those endless loops of what ifs and maybes that keep you up at night, replaying conversations, analyzing decisions, and worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. I'll be breaking down exactly why overthinking is costing you more than you realize, emotionally, mentally, and even physically, and how to shut it down for good. So make sure you tune in.